Mum, tell me about the scullery and what...
The scullery later was for animals with fodder above.
What do you mean later?
Well, I'll tell you, part of this is earlier that I'm going to tell you about.
Okay.
And this is probably 16th century, 1550.
Kitchen.
Not the whole of what we now think of as a kitchen. This part was 1550. This tree, which is one tree from that end to the other end of the hall,
Right.
was one tree trunk. Oh, first of all, I have to tell you how, in the 16th century, how they built these houses was to lay them on the ground, and then dig holes, and then the whole village came out, gave it a shove, and they fell in the hole, and there was the frame of the tree.
House.
What?
Frame of the house.
Frame of the house, yes, frame of the house. And they designed the house before they laid it on the ground. And
so what would the design of this house have been when they laid it on the ground? Simply consisting of the scullery and two rooms where the kitchen
Well, imagine it lying flat.
Yes.
It would be the outside beams,
Walls,
posts,
yeah.
Outside posts. So there would be. I've counted them sometime, but I think there are 7. And a similar number down here. Forget about windows altogether. And there would be this right down the middle, which was the important part, because it held the whole thing together. It didn't come till much later. When it came, they got the whole village. The whole village built each of these houses, really, once the owners had laid it down. And they all took a post and pushed it up together. So it was a house, every house was built by the whole village.
So what date are we talking now?
1550.
1550, gosh, okay.
That's the first
That's
date.
the first bit, okay. And at that stage, just go back to this house, what would it have consisted of? So we've got the
It was 2 houses in 1550.
Okay, we've got the pigs or goats or something in the
Yes, and no,
in this what is now the scullery.
Yes, that would be animals.
Animals.
I think there would probably be a cow. Every village had a cow.
It wouldn't come inside though.
Yes, they came inside in the depth of
winter
because they were not our cows. They were cows as they were. They're much smaller.
Right, and then up above
was their fodder.
Was their fodder, which went up stairs.
No, there was
up
no
a
stairs.
ladder.
Up a ladder.
In sacks.
In sacks.
Okay. All right.
We're mixing.
Yes, I know.
Different dates.
Yes. Okay. So
because there was no upstairs till later.
What date? When was the upstairs created? Do you think?
I don't know. I'd have to write this down.
Yeah.
But it was when these were put in, probably 1600.
So another 50 years after the original house, something
so.
Like that. Yeah. Okay.
And of course, the loft was much later. Everything has.
But it was thatched. Was it thatched?
Oh, of course. There's no other way of putting a roof on a house. No corrugated.
Okay,
iron,
so you've got half
no
this kitchen, which would have been the kind of
2 houses.
Been 2 houses. So the houses.
Yes, this is Mrs. Smith and that's Mrs. Robinson.
And they would have been divided where your wall is here. Kitchen wall is here.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But because it had to go through this one tree, and you'll see this is one tree. Just imagine the size of the tree.
Yeah.
Look at the size of this. This is one thing right down the middle. It was an enormous tree.
And was some of these beams were ships?
No, that was much later.
That's later. Okay. All right. Okay. So and then, Mrs. X and Mrs. Y are next door to one another.
Yeah.
Adjoining houses, like
and
a
then they pushed this up.
Okay, so it's
then they got the posts from the posts from the ships.
Right.
And they think, I never got them dated. You have to decrinize or whatever it's called, the holes. And we never got that because it was going to cost another, whatever we didn't have, £150 or something. And they date those holes. And all those holes date from the ships.
So the holes are, okay, I can't see a hole. Yes, I can. Okay.
There are sort of 4 or 5 up there.
Up there, yeah, okay.
And that's Phil.
That's Phil.
He's 15, 60.
Feels it some days.
Okay, so we don't know how old the holes are, so we don't know how old the ships were,
That
but we
was
do
a later date from the beam.
from the beam. Okay, so the beam,
Not much later.
so the posts and the beam went up, but there must have been connecting things between the posts and the
Yes,
beam.
and then they had to put these,
Rafters,
and they are called beams.
right? And where are they from?
Well, if you look at them, they're all different dates.
Right.
They go up to about the 19th century there. That one is, you see, there's been quite a different kind of tool used on it.
Which one are we looking at? The one
The one with the light on.
with the light on.
And this one is much later. You can see it's much smoother.
Yeah. Okay.
The oldest ones are like that, which was bits of tree.
Yeah. Okay.
Another tree probably. And this was a bigger tree.
Mm-hmm.
You can see because they were the size of the beam, really. And I said, what about all this cracking? Are we going to have cracked beams? They put it up with a crack in it because they knew by the look of it whether it was going to ever give way.
Yeah. But it's like green oak that we've been making those benches for Dad and Rob out of.
Yes.
They do crack. They will crack almost.
Yes, they crack, but that's part
But that's
of their
okay.
nature.
That's part of it. Yeah. Yeah. And presumably these are all oak.
Everything's oak,
Yeah.
including these. Now you see that one over the window there would be an early beam holding that part of that side of the house together. No, that would be earlier because look at the state of it. And then somebody said we'll have windows,
Matching
and they put
ones.
that one on.
Yeah.
They've all grown.
Yes.
These houses
Yes. Yeah.
from the first to the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
But this was the start of it.
Okay.
Now,
and so
that under there.
no, just before you do that, over there, just to the left of the oven, is a square bit of ceiling where you think the hearth was.
No, the hearth was big and took up the whole of the end of the house to start with.
Okay.
Then they decided to put in a chimney. They thought this was a good idea, and they could have a smaller fire and take the smoke out of the. Until then, the smoke just lived in the house, and they all lived in a fog. Well, they had a hole.
They must have had a hole in the roof.
hole in the top.
Yeah.
But that wasn't very good. But then the house was always being thatched, you see, and it was changed. This roof is 20th century. This thatch.
Oh yes, I know. We
But the
did.
roof that the thatch is on
Yes, is
is
older.
20th century.
Oh right.
It's quite late.
Okay. Okay. Stop there, and then we're going to go into the hall later, and discuss the hall. Unless there's more to say in here. Oh yes, no, you're going to say something about over here.
Yes, down there.
Yes.
That's very old, because that was one of the... When they started doing these walls, if you can imagine a child's drawing, you have the top of it, and then you have the uprights, and then you have a thing at the bottom to hold it together. And that's the thing at the bottom. And you'll find that on the other side, and also in the loo, because that's the end of the house.
Right.
Until 1970.
Right. Okay.
And even in 1930, there were 10 families living here, mostly 5 and 5.
When was it made into one house? Do we know that?
Nobody's quite sure. Probably 1700.
Just describe, because you've got a lovely wattle and daub pane in your
That was
hall.
somebody who was renovating it, who thought people should see what's
What
inside
it's made
this
of.
wall.
I'll go and
That's much later.
yes.
That's infill, really. You have the posts, you have everything. And they
So what would they have filled up between in 1550?
blowing wind. And that's why they didn't have windows. They didn't need them.
But you must have had something to fill between the
Well, yes,
posts
I
and
think you'd probably stuff in
mud
some-
and fur and
well, that's what
straw and
wattle
things.
daub is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But you just said that's much later.
Well, not much later, perhaps 50 years later.
Okay.
I've got a book about it upstairs.
Okay. All right. So in the hall, you've got more. You've got the extension of this long beam, which is one single oak.
Yeah, that's the most important thing in the house.
Yeah. And is there anything else in the hall?
One tree, and I think she thinks she didn't date it, but she thinks it grew here.
Oh, goodness.
So somebody said around here, lovely tree, let's make a house around it.
Right. So there must have been lots of lovely oaks all growing everywhere.
Not a lot. It's not a good area for oak.
Oh.
So I said, it's not a good area for oak. How would this grow here, all these bits? She said, it must have been good enough.
Hmm. So to go back to the hall, is there anything else of interest in the hall that we should think about?
Yes, it's worth going in there and having a look, really.
Okay, we'll do that in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Vivian.